There are countless caves in the world, and it's fair to say that most people would much rather avoid the majority of them because of their dark, damp, and sometimes creepy interiors. Today, we are going to be looking at a collection of caves that are quite disturbing, whether it be because of their dark histories or because of the strange things that are inside them. So here are the 6 creepiest caves in the world. Number 1. Deer Cave, Malaysia. Deer Cave is one of the largest cave passages in the world, and even though it barely gets any direct sunlight, it is the home to countless creatures. Over 3 million bats can be found living on the walls of this cave. This may seem like a staggering statistic, but it's not uncommon for bats to gather in such large numbers. However, this is only the beginning of the life that can be found in this cave. On the ground, crabs, spiders, centipedes, and millions of cockroaches can be found feasting on bat carcasses and the droppings that they produce. In fact, it is quite difficult to find any solid piece of this cave that is not covered with some kind of a life form. Many of these creatures will never leave this area, and this has led to the cave having its own ecosystem. It's no surprise that this mesmerizing and fascinating location has become a major tourist attraction, with thousands of people visiting it every year. Number 2 is the Hellfire Caves, England. The Hellfire Caves are a series of man-made caverns that are 1/4 of a mile long. In the 18th century, a politician known as Francis Dashwood used these caves to host meetings for the infamous Hellfire Club, a secret, exclusive society of mostly politicians that were founded by Dashwood. Because of how exclusive this club was, it's difficult to determine what actually happened in these meetings, but many rumors have spawned about the nature of these events, and pieces of evidence have surfaced that may suggest that debauchery, dark rituals, and even sacrifices may have occurred here. What is known is that many copycat clubs spawned from this society, and Satanism is a common practice in a number of them. The cave now has a dark and eerie atmosphere, and many of the tourists that visit this area explain that they felt quite uneasy and uncomfortable whilst in the caves. Number 3 is the Catawba Murder Hole, Virginia. The Catawba Murder Hole is a cave in the United States that has many creepy and disturbing stories revolving around it. In one story, a farmer apparently killed a traveling merchant and threw his body into this cave. A couple also allegedly killed themselves in this cave because their families did not agree with their relationship. Now, these are just stories told by locals, so it's hard to know for sure if they are actually authentic, but a very real death has occurred in this cave. David Spencer, a member of a local cave club, died in 1958 when the rope he was using for support snapped, leading him to fall into the depths of the cave. Today, people get trapped in the cave on a consistent basis, but fortunately, they have all been rescued. It is now a dark, disturbing area that most locals avoid, and without a proper escort, nobody is allowed to enter this location because of how dangerous it is. Number 4, the Kabayan Mummy Caves, the Philippines. There are a series of caves on the slopes of Mount Pulag that hold a very strange sight, a group of mummies. These preserved corpses have existed on this mountain for hundreds of years, and these caves have served as a resting site for dozens of bodies. After the discovery of these bodies, a lot was learned about the process of mummification, and it turned out that these corpses were preserved in a unique but slightly creepy way. This is because the process actually began before the person died. The terminally ill person would digest an extremely salty drink which would deplete the body fluids and dry out the skin. Then after the person's death, the body would be placed over a fire and tobacco smoke would be blown into the corpse's mouth. This process was strange, but it evidently worked, as the bodies are still reasonably well preserved given the circumstances. Unfortunately, some of the people who visited this site vandalized the area and even went as far as to tag graffiti on the mummies themselves. Some of the locals believe that this angered the spirits of the mummies, and they now stay away from the area as they fear it may be cursed. Number 5 is Jacob's Well, Texas. Jacob's Well is an underwater cave in Texas that has been labeled as one of the most dangerous diving spots in America. Divers from all over the world travel to Texas to dive into this cave and explore it, but if the proper precautions are not taken before entering, the consequences could be dire. Between the years of 1964 and 1984, 8 fatalities occurred in this cave. What contributes to this is how large the cave is. One of the passageways is over a kilometer from the surface, and when divers reach the bottom, it can be very difficult to get back to the top. It's become such a well-known, dangerous spot that officials put a sign in the cave with a picture of the Grim Reaper. The sign states that nothing in this cave is worth dying for and urges potential divers to turn back and avoid a potential tragedy. Number 6 is the Chislehurst Caves, England. The Chislehurst Caves are a series of man-made tunnels that span over 35 kilometers in length. They have a long and dark history, and the tunnels have had many different uses in its lifetime. Most notably, it was used as a makeshift underground city during the bombing of London in World War II. It started off as a simple air raid shelter, but soon developed into a fully functioning residential area with a hospital, a chapel, and over 15,000 inhabitants. This turned Chislehurst Caves into a historic location because of how many people it protected, but unfortunately the cave also has a darker side because it was around this time in the early 1940s that a set of bones belonging to a young woman was found inside the caves. Evidence suggested that she had been murdered and then buried inside the cave. The killer was never found, and some people believe that her spirit now haunts the area. Many people who have visited the caves have stated that it is an eerie and creepy experience because of the history and atmosphere. And that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. I make a new creepy list every single Saturday, so if you want to subscribe for that, you can. All of the footage used, music, and sources will, as always, be linked down below in the description, along with my Instagram, my Twitter, and my Facebook. But like I said, that's all for now. As always, until next time.